What's going on with you today, man?
Nothing, man. Thank God to be up another day, man. Had dinner with my brother and his wife and their daughter last night. She cooked some taco. I forget what it's called. It's like a taco. It was like a soft taco, pretty much, in a glass dish, cooked in the oven on 350. Scrumptious,
Scrumptious.
scrumptious, delectable treat.
Pee-wee, look, man, we've been doing a lot of work with you as of late, and a lot of people are rocking with the positivity, rocking with this change that you've been living. To think about where you were in the past compared to where you are now, it's definitely refreshing and really awesome to see just how much you want to make it out here and how positive you are about that.
Yeah, man. I've devoted 7 years of my life, unfortunately, to the wrong thing, giving time to the prison systems and the jail systems and the court systems. And I've made a record for myself in that, and that's not something I want to keep living by. That's not a name that I want to keep getting drug around. I'm tired of having my last name drugged through the dirt, so it's time to make a positive change, and that's what I intend to do now.
I'm really happy to hear that. I'm really happy to have you rocking with us. The reason why you have been able to rock with us so much, people may wonder, why aren't you at work? Is because of the type of work that you do, and that being seasonal work. And with it getting colder and the weather changing, you're not able to work as much. So it's my hope to be able to help you find and put you to work, help you find some other work. So that's a hope that we have. But as we continue to work with you, Pee-wee, I want to be able to continue to share your story with people. And one thing that I want to start talking about today is some of the crazy things that you experienced while serving time, and some of the crazy things that really make you who you are. For those people who know you, crazy things are something that aren't uncommon to you.
Everybody might know my name, might know my full name, my first name, my last name, but they don't know my whole story.
It would take probably many videos to be able to share that, but in this, what I want to focus on is something that I think people are going to be intrigued by. It is some negativity, and that is some fights that you got in while you were locked up. But one thing about that, and to try to justify it, I want to share this with people because I want people to learn who you are, what you've been through, as they continue to see where you're going.
Yeah, man. It's like what I went in prison as is not who I came out as. I went in I went in a little kid, humble as possible. You could say anything you want to me, get away with anything you want to me, but 6 years is enough to change somebody's mentality. That's what it did for me, not in the wrong way, but as far as my survival way of thinking, as far as taking the bull by the horns per se. It's what I had to do and what I had to get used to for the next 6 years of my life. It was either eat or get eaten, and I was not going to be the one getting eaten.
You mentioned some really interesting things right there that I want to, pick up on real quick, and that was you went into prison young and you went into prison small, like little. You are a shorter dude. You are a smaller dude. Do you feel like because of that, that was in part why you fought as much as you did and what basically made you be known as a dude who was always in fights and always in trouble?
I do believe, yes, and I will say 100% fact, it is my size, my character. People always felt like they could take advantage of me because I wouldn't be the first to lash out, but I wasn't going to take nothing from nobody. But just one time's all it took for somebody to realize that I wasn't playing no more.
Let's go back to the very beginning when you first got locked up for the 6 years. You said that when you went in there, you were young and you were small. Was there a different side of you? I mean, I'm sure there was. There was a different side of you when you first went in there that might have been scared and might have been, disrespected in any type of way. Do you remember any of that from when you first got locked up and what that was like?
Man, I can remember the first fight I got into when I ever got locked up. It was in Chesapeake City Jail. It was over a dude who called me out of my name. I'm just gonna say that. Called me out of my name. Said something disrespectful. I was behind the bars in '87. It was 5:30, almost 5:30 in the morning. He kept talking crap, so I said, "Don't worry about it. When these bars roll, it's time for us to roll." So we woke up when 5:30 came around. I put my shoes on. We went outside the cell on the catwalk, started rumbling. He shook my hand afterwards, told me he apologized for saying what he said. He should have never said it. He didn't expect me to do what I did. He said, but he's got mad respect for me.
That was the first fight that you got in while you were locked up. How many fights do you think you got in throughout the course of that 6 years?
I could tell you how many fights I got into over 6 years. It wasn't 6 years. I call it 6 years because 5 years, 9 months, and 10 days is 6 years to me. especially when your mind's being trapped behind a wall, nothing but four walls. But I've been in 18 fights in 6 years. 18 fights.
You know, and of those fights, do you think you won more than you lost, or lost more than you won, or maybe it was even?
I'm not going to brag, but I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. I've probably had my tail kicked just about as many times as I've won, but I haven't had my tail kicked more than I've won. You're always going to have to lose a battle to win a battle. You have to learn how to take a hit to give a hit.
You know, prior to you getting locked up, you know, were you the fighter type? Was that like in you, or was that something that came with doing time?
It was not in me when I got locked up. I was always the younger brother getting picked on by my older brother, not being able to do nothing to him. I guess that mentality carried with me when I got into the system, and I guess it just played a factor in pretty much the majority of my mentality, my physical way of thinking, my survival way of thinking. But yes, I do believe that had a 100% effect on my mentality when I hit the prison system.
With the fact that you had 18 fights in 6 years, what do you think was the craziest fight that you got in of all of those fights?
The craziest one I think I got in, it's the first time I ever knocked somebody clean out and dropped them like a sack of potatoes and watched the eyes roll back in the head. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there standing over top of them and looking at them. I hear voices around me. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what was going on. I just clung back, and somebody was like, "What are you doing? Hit him! Hit him!" So I shook my head, got on top of the dude, and just started wailing until somebody pulled me off of him.
And what was the backstory behind that? Like, what was the reason for this fight?
Dude wanted to run his mouth, called me a liar in front of one of my friends. Want somebody that could actually call a friend, because in prison you don't make friends or acquaintances or both. You make either or. But I was in front of one of my friends that I could say it. I called a friend, and I was disrespected. And once you have the mentality of not getting disrespected by anybody, you're not gonna let nobody disrespect you. Because if one person does it, they all gonna think they can do it, and you got to put a halt to all that comes first.
You know, I knew this guy that you knocked out. He actually was my bunkie at one point. So I remember this vividly. I remember hearing about, oh man, did you hear Pee Wee just knocked out dude and this and that. And nobody even thought that you were like that. But that's what ended up happening. And you know, that was a crazy thing to hear about. With all of the fighting that you did, you know, I can imagine there were fights that you regretted. Was there ever a time when maybe you got beat up that you were like, damn, I wish I didn't get myself involved in that, or maybe you got in trouble? You know, was there ever a time when you got in a fight that you actually regretted it afterward?
Yeah, a few of them actually. Probably most of them, for the simple fact that it could have all been avoided. It was just, I have a big pride issue, and when something gets in the way of my pride, I'm not gonna let it knock it down. My pride is my main thing, and my impulse is my main thing that keeps me in trouble. But I do regret fights that I've been in that I've gotten my butt handed to me, where I wish I would have. Every time I end up in a fight where I get my butt kicked, I'm always telling myself, man, what was I doing wrong? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Why could I have not ended up looking like this when he could have ended up looking like that? I mean, it's an iffy situation. I mean, you're like, you want to go into the fight with the right mentality. You want to go into the fight not thinking at all. I don't like to fight with my mind full. I like to fight with my mind blank. I like to fight with a mentality either this dude's trying to kill me or that I'm going to kill him. It's not we're going to fight and be friends afterwards and shake hands. Because you never know what the next person's capable of. You never know what they could have on them, what they could have next to them, who they can have behind them, who they can have beside them, or who they can have riding with them. It's either the mentality, you're going to get the job done, or the job's going to get done to you. And my mentality was, I'm going to get the job done. Always has been.
You know, Pee Wee, one thing that I want to ask you, especially with the fact that you were young when you went to prison and the fact that you did so much fighting while in there, you know, do you feel like you have to fight when you're in prison?
Yes, I feel like you're going to have to fight in prison at least once or twice just to get your point across. There's no beating around the bush. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat nothing to nobody. If you end up in prison system, hopefully nobody does. Hopefully you take the advice that I'm trying to give out. Hopefully the advice that I'm trying to give somebody the right direction of life, the right path of life. But if anybody ever does end up in a situation like that where it's either fight or flight, as I would say, you're going to have to fight to get your point across to somebody to let them not know you're playing.
You know, going back to that first fight that you told us about, you know, and again, you not being the fighter type, did you go into jail feeling like you were going to have to fight? Did you go into jail scared that you were going to have to fight? And was any of that, if you did, was any of that a part of your mentality and your thinking when those bars did roll that morning?
Yeah. I do believe it was. When I went to jail, I didn't like to fight. My brother would always want to fight growing up. I don't like to fight. I was never the physical type. I would always be like, man, can we just talk about it? Can we just work it out or something like that? But going behind the bars changes your mind about the aspect of the way you look at things. It's either pretty much you're going to get your wig split or you're going to split somebody else's wig. And pretty much that's just the way it's going to be in a prison system. You're going to have to fight. Anybody who says they've never been in a fight or an altercation in a prison system, a jail system, don't believe none of that. Because somebody's going to have to be taken advantage of, or somebody's going to get taken advantage of. And they're going to have to put their point across, whether it's the easiest way, the humblest way, the nicest way, or the aggressive way. You're going to have to fight sooner or later. It's not something you're going to be able to duck around unless you do PC, protective custody, for all your bid.
You mentioned getting taken advantage of. Was that ever something that anybody tried to do to you when you first got locked up? Do you look back on it and think to yourself, man, this dude tried to play me? Or, was there anything like that that ever took place when you first got locked up?
Nothing like that. And there was only once or twice, I think it was only twice that I've ever been stolen from when I was in the prison system. And both times I confronted the person that stole out of my bag. And we did an altercation behind that.
You did end up fighting behind that?
Because I'm not going to have my stuff stolen from. I'm not going to steal nothing from nobody. I get what's mine. I work for what's mine. I do whatever. It doesn't matter. But I'm not going to be having somebody stealing from me, stealing from my people's money when they send their hard-earned money for me, when they don't have to. But far as anything taking advantage of, nah. Far as like in the other aspects, nah. I've had names called, words said, couple people steal from me, but that's about it. Ain't nothing major ever happened like that. But yeah. Prison sucked. It does. So does fighting. I don't like fighting. I still don't like fighting. But one thing about it, I'm not going to run from no fight and never going to back down from a fight. It's either I'm going to get my butt kicked or I'm going to kick somebody's butt. That's the way it is. Never no backing down for me.
Pee Wee, I want to switch gears a little bit. And I want to talk about you at the major. When you went to this level 4 Sussex, this is a major. Your cellmate was Psycho Sam. You were also up there during the time that Malvo was up there. There were some pretty high-profile names who were at this prison where you were at, and you knew that this prison was a serious place to be at. I want you to share with us the story that you told me about the craziest fight that you saw take place while you were at that prison.
Craziest fight? It was a death sentence is what I would call it. It was two people who got into an altercation because somebody was trying to extort another person for money, because the person that was extorting somebody owed a group of people some money, and they didn't have no means of getting their money, so they lied to them. So they tried to extort somebody, and the person that they tried to extort just so happened to be a coincidence that the group of people that the dude owed money to was best friends with the dude that was getting ready to be extorted. And the word got back to the group of people that dude was being extorted, one of his friends. Dude pretty much, let's just say, was poked in the neck about 7 times, fell down a flight of steps, and bled to his death. That's probably the craziest thing I've ever seen locked up.
You'd have never seen nothing like that before.
Only in movies.
And then you're seeing that in real life at this prison where you're at. How much time did you have left to serve when you're seeing this?
I had about 14 months left. I was within the first 6 months when I got there.
I can't imagine what that did to you mentally. But, was there a point, I'm sure there was, where you were thinking to yourself, you could potentially lose your life up here?
Yes. There was times that I almost did some foolish stuff. I will say that. I made almost the wrong decisions that could have ended me up in the infirmary or in other places per se. But I switched that stinking thinking around and got myself back in my own lane, stayed in my own lane, and made it home to where I belong.
Pee Wee, I'm laughing, but it's just so crazy to see this complete change in you. I wanted to focus on this negative type of stuff because this is a big part of your story. As unfortunate, as negative as it is, there's a lot that people can learn from who you were and where you've been. You go to prison as a young, scared little dude. You know, you never did any fighting, but yet you get locked up and you do all of this fighting. And I'm sure that changes you. You talk about how that changes you. And you come home from prison and you're still making some mistakes and you're still, you know, you're still kind of messed up, and you would end up getting locked up again. You did the 6 months that you did, and then you're here now where you are. Your mentality's completely different, and you want to be successful and you want to succeed out here.
That's all I want to do, man. All I want to do is succeed for my son. My thinking and my mentality has changed. Good mentality equals my son. Bad mentality equals no seeing my son. So I try to keep that in context and play it over in my head every day. Wake up, am I going to do the right thing to be able to see my son, or am I going to wake up and do the wrong thing and not be able to see my son? That's the mentality I keep. That's the mentality I think about every day. My son is my life, is my world, is my whole demeanor, is my mentality. My son Ryan is my mentality. And that's all I think about.
You know, I want to wrap this up. I don't want to make this too long, but as we do so, I want to ask you, you know, to any young people who see this, any young people who were just like you when you were getting ready to do those 6 years, any young people out there who are making the wrong decisions and are very likely going to end up getting locked up, you know, what kind of message would you give to them?
I'd say life is 10% of what you do and 90% of how you react to it. 10% is the decision that you're faced with in front of you at that very moment, at that very second, at that time of day, at that time of night. It's 90% is up to you to decide how you want to handle that. Are you gonna handle it the right way? Are you gonna handle it the wrong way? You gonna handle it a prison lifestyle, or you gonna handle it the mature life? You gonna handle it in the maturest way possible? You gonna end up in the gutter, or you gonna end up somebody that you wanna be?